pushing it, but he was the only other guy who had given me the time of day. Mind you, it was a very slight time of day. Chase Riley. Tall, dark hair. He did that thing where when he smiled, it was a crooked half smile out of the side of his mouth. It was like he always had some joke on the tip of his tongue. It might not be everybody's cup of tea, but it was mine. Once he dropped his pencil behind his desk in class. When I reached down and handed it back to him, he gave me that crooked smile and thanks, and just like that, social studies became my favorite class. Once, our teacher, Mr. Thomas, walked in front of the fan and it blew his hair partially askance on his head. Did any of us know it was a toupee? Nope. We had been taking a test that day. Most of the class had been poring over their tests on their desks and hadn't noticed, but Chase and I had been looking up at the same time, and we both saw it. He snickered softly at first, and then I joined in. A while later, while I was writing the essay section for the test, a small piece of paper landed on my desk. I glanced around to make sure Mr. Thomas wasn't looking before taking in the crudely sketched drawing of our teacher with his hair flying off his head. I snickered. If I were being honest, I liked our teacher and felt bad for making fun of him. However, Chase Riley had drawn me a note and passed it to me in class. Me. I stared at the note, trying to figure out my next move. I changed the face of my teacher on the paper to one of horror and passed it back to him. His shoulders shook with mirth before we went back to our tests. That had been it. He still talked mostly to his friends during class, but every once in a while, he would send me a look when something was funny. So far, I had made him laugh exactly 2 times. So, we were friends, right? Friends could ask friends to the dance. The pit in my stomach grew into a tree. Penny! By that time, I had made my way to where Gina stood next to our shared locker. Her expressive eyes looked me over as I approached. You feeling okay? I've been better. Your fault. She smiled as she tossed her auburn Disney princess hair over her shoulder. You'll be fine. It's not like it's a real date or anything. She wasn't wrong. We were only in the 8th grade. The dance would be held after school because nobody could drive yet. Getting a date probably just guaranteed us some dances. Did you tell him? My best friend was busy looking over my shoulder down the hallway, no doubt searching for my twin. I didn't tell him. I just told him to check his locker before going home. Do you think he'll say yes? Positive. Now, can we stop talking about you liking my brother? I already feel like I might puke. She laughed and opened her locker, rummaging through her bag of toiletries. Just think, if he says yes, you get to talk to him. I leaned against the locker next door. The key word here is if. Gina applied a thin coat of lip gloss, checking herself out in the mirror that was pressed against the inside door. Did you bring the candygram? That thing burning a humongous hole in my backpack? Yeah, I brought it. I hadn't wanted to do any sort of grand gesture to ask him to the dance, but Gina insisted we had to do something, so we settled on a candygram. Everyone liked candy, right? She made one for Matt, and I made one for Chase, which meant we spent all night surrounded by a pile of candy bars, coming up with lines like, I love snickering with you in class, and it would be worth 100 grand if you'd go with me to the dance. What have I done? Gina was not deterred. Of course, it was easier for her. She knew Matt would say yes. Given the general amount of time I have spent actually talking to Chase, his niceness was still up for debate. I nudged Gina to the side and checked my own reflection in the mirror. No new pimples had appeared on my red, blotched cheeks since that morning, and I had no hidden boogers in my nose. I checked for food in my braces and picked out a speck of Pop-Tart. The bell's going to ring any minute, Gina said. Then you go to his locker and I'll go to Matt's and we'll make the drop. Josh said he'd hang around his locker for a minute after the bell so he can get you in, I told her, clutching the shoulder straps on my backpack as if they were a lifeline. Did you ask Mike to do the same for me? Mike was Chase's locker partner. He'll be there.